Most of the things these god-awful fake Tories have wrecked would take money to fix, and they haven't got any money because they spent £500 billion killing the economy during the COVID. But the so-called online safety bill, in reality a death of free speech bill, doesn't cost anything. They could do the world a favour and kill it stone dead tomorrow. And yet they don't. Andrew Tettenborn is Professor of Law at Swansea University. Andrew, what exactly is keeping this thing alive?
I think the point is that the Tories would love to be able to get rid of it. They're bitterly regretting having started this, but having started it, they can't now stop it. The point was made by Fraser Nelson that they ought to have seen that this was going to be a census charter. It's a classic case of government saying something must be done following one admittedly very tragic death, the death of Molly Russell. If the government had had any sense, either they would have noticed that there wasn't much they could do, or they would have had something absolutely limited to protection of children. Unfortunately, they couldn't resist the temptation to say, we're going to go out, rather like St. George, against the monster of big tech and corral big tech. They've sown the wind and they've reaped the whirlwind this time. This is very much a damage limitation exercise.
Well, you mentioned that one particular terrible case, but it's an old cliche of members of the legal profession that hard cases make bad law. Why are they encouraging a regime in which big tech will start, instead of doing anything for children, they're just going to do what's perfectly obvious and censor even more than they do political opinions that do not conform to the official narrative?
I think that most governments are actually a little bit unhappy with free speech, or at least put it the other way around. There are very few politicians who will root very strongly for free speech. One or two Tories and one rather brave Labour MP actually did so when this bill was going through its second reading last April. But actually, if you look at the second reading, most of the movement in Parliament wasn't to complain about the restriction on free speech. It was actually to increase the restrictions on free speech. That you had a number of people coming in and saying, for example, oh, it shouldn't only be the big platforms. We need to get people like BitChute and Minds because they can be far more frightening. You've got Lucy Powell, who's the person who rather memorably said, I think a day or so ago, that it's very, very problematic that the government is going for free speech rather than control over what's said on the internet. She previously, in April, she's got form. She previously in April said, oh, actually, I want to extend this and give the government power to shut down whatever they see as misinformation.